might work best for you. The Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast has got you covered.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the Beauty Podcast on the GSMC network. I'm your host Becky, and let's just address the elephant in the room, okay? I am not a fashionista. I am not a professional makeup artist. I barely know how to use a primer, but don't panic. I think, like life, the beauty element should be up for interpretation. So a little bit about me. I would say I fall more in the alternative spectrum when it comes to things like fashion or makeup, beauty. I'm a pale girl. I prefer cool tones, and I don't know what my undertones are. I actually asked a girl in Morphe the other day, and she said, probably more rosy, maybe, which didn't really answer my question, but she did help me find concealer. So there's that. I'm just the kind of person who would rather have skulls on her walls or coffin-shaped things in my home rather than sparkles and pastels, which doesn't mean that sparkles and pastels aren't good. It's just not for me. However, I do think that this is a podcast for everyone because, like I said, beauty is up for interpretation. So anything I say here, I think can be applicable for anybody. That's anybody on the binary, anybody on the alternative, the goth, the punk, the preppy, the fashionista, all of those scenes. I think this is something that is applicable to all. And I think in terms of what I'm going to do here, just take it and make it your own. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? I mean, I would say don't blindly follow me. I don't know what I'm doing. None of us know what we're doing. We're all still, figuring it out. We're all growing. It's okay to change as people, and it's okay to change your face with makeup. Simple as that. So, as an alternative girl, I thought I would start things off with this podcast by going over a couple tips and things that you can think about when you have a corporate job. As an alternative girl, and I think a lot of alternative girls will agree with me, it's hard to find a quote-unquote business or quote-unquote corporate job when you have bright green hair, or if you've got a nose ring, or if you have tattoos that are visible. So, how do you get around that? And, unfortunately, the answer in a lot of cases is you have to dye your hair a natural color. You have to wear long sleeves to cover your tattoos. And that's kind of a shame in the culture that we're living in. However, fear not. While you may feel stifled, here's a couple things that you can do at work or with your appearance that might make things a little less awkward, might make things feel a little more comfortable for you because you get to express yourself. I like to call this segment How to Be a Corporate Goth, aka How to Be Yourself in a Business Setting. So one of the things that I found really helpful in my corporate job is desk accessories. Because there's really no rule. If you're lucky enough to have a desk, I should say, desk accessories are a great way to express yourself. So in terms of office supplies, what I have found is Staples, Office Depot, they have a couple really great, darker floral designs, which can come off a little Victorian. You can always DIY something. There's plenty of resources online to do that. And let's not forget the power of a bobblehead, or of a figurine, or of a photo. Pick a frame for, a photo of you and your partner, or a photo of you and your parents, you and your best friend. It could be anything, but pick a frame that you think is jazzy. And, it's not a big step, but it is, a little tiny essence of who you are that you can kind of proudly display on your desk, in your cubicle, whatever your office setup is. Oh, you don't have a desk. That's cool too. I've worked in a couple jobs where I've been there, customer service, it's, you know, it is what it is. But one of the things that I was lucky enough to do was pins. Now, I don't know about all customer service jobs, but in my experience, my customer service jobs required you to wear a vest of some kind or some kind of, uniform shirt or, something in that area. For me, it was always a vest of some kind. And what I liked to do was add pins. And I know everybody's thinking, oh, you're just saying that because of waiting. No, I am not. I collect enamel pins, and the few jobs that I worked at actually had like security pins or breast cancer pins that they would give out to employees to wear. And eventually I just started, bringing in my own. So I would wear like a Beatles pin one day, or I would wear a witchy pin one day. I actually have this great mermaid pin that I wore one day. But it can be anything. And at least it shows a little bit of who you are, without making your boss unhappy. I think one of the biggest issues that I have when working in a more corporate setting is clothes. Because I want to wear things that are a little more edgy, a little more gothy, a little more, punk. But you really can't do that in a business setting at this point in time. There's really no place for it, unfortunately. And in a lot of my, more business roles, a lot of it is, business casual, business professional, dress pants, suit jackets, nice dresses, that sit in your closet and wait for like a day where you feel like wearing it to work. And one of the things that I have done to alleviate feeling like I'm wearing the same thing as everyone else is to incorporate things like pinstripes or incorporate, vintage or retro print. Actually, I have this really great dress that I got from a small shop called Broomstick Betty's in New Jersey. And it has like this really pretty, and I'm not a yellow person, but it has these really pretty kind of cool tone mustard yellow puffy sleeves. And then it's got like a black jumper, but it has the illusion that you're wearing a jumper with like a collared shirt underneath of it. It has pockets, which makes it that much better. But I found it and immediately loved it. And I was a little hesitant about wearing it to work because I was like, maybe this isn't quite what they were thinking of. I don't know. Like, I may or may not be told to not wear this again. I don't know. What if it's too short? But I kind of took the bullet and was like, I'm going to wear it to work. It makes me happy. I got so many compliments that day. And I don't think necessarily it was because the dress was cute, even though it is. But I think one of the biggest things is I felt so cute in it. And I felt so confident in that dress that by the time I got my first compliment, I was like, this dress rocks and I'm going to wear it whenever I want. And I think that's what kind of comes down to in terms of clothes. I think if you wear something confidently because you like it, I think people are going to respond. And so I think that's something to keep in mind. It's all about finding the little things, right? It's finding the things in your job that may be restrictive and figuring out, tiny loopholes or tiny rebellions that make you feel better about your day. Because the bottom line is, if you feel good, you are going to perform better in your job. That's the bottom line, right? And the last thing that I would say, to help you be a corporate goth, aka yourself in a business setting, is to play with your makeup. Makeup is a great way to express yourself. Even if it's kind of minimal or even, for me, I love a lot of, smoky eyes with pops of color. I like a good metallic finish. I love a huge wing eyeliner. I think makeup is one of the really interesting loopholes in kind of the corporate world because you want to, I think it's kind of expected of women, which is a shame. But also if you enjoy makeup, it can be a fun outlet for you in an otherwise environment where maybe you don't feel like you can be as creative as you want to be. For me personally, I like to, if I'm going to wear a black dress, I'll put on a green eye, or if I'm wearing, I have this other really great, maroon dress that I'll pair with a nice warm toned, like a gold look, or, it's just about, playing with colors and, just playing basically. So I hope you found this helpful, and I hope that as you're getting ready for work tomorrow, or the next day, or tonight, or, whenever you're going to work, I hope that you can, take some of these things and, apply them to your own life. Because again, if you feel good, you're going to perform better at work, you're going to feel better about yourself, and you might get a couple compliments along the way, which is always a great ego booster. So I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I'm going to be reviewing a new product to me, although I think it's been out for a while, from the Beauty Bakerie. Stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the Beauty Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Becky, and in our last segment, we talked a little bit about, remaining true to yourself while also being respectful of your company's, policies in terms of dress code, in terms of hair color, things like that. And one of the last things we talked about was makeup and playing with your makeup, make it a little bigger, make it a little smaller, do whatever you want with your makeup, because it's one of the few loopholes where you can kind of get away with it in any setting. Now, I am subscribed to the FabFitFun box, and in this month's box, there was a bunch of really cool stuff, including, a really comfortable hat and some gloves, because it's winter. And among those things, it was something that I got to pick, actually, for being in the box, was a eyeshadow palette. I love eyeshadow palettes. I have too many eyeshadow palettes, as my boyfriend will tell you. But I was really interested in trying this. It's from the Beauty Bakerie, which is a brand that I've heard about a lot, but hadn't tried any of their products. And I was able to get my hands on the Proof is in the Pudding eyeshadow palette. First of all, the packaging is adorable. It has what looks like banana pudding on the front in cartoon form with some vanilla wafers, I think they're called, or Nilla wafers, and slices of banana. And when you open the palette up, it has 9 shades, which are all cooking based. That's what the whole line is about naming their products after, baking things. So it has 9 shades on the bottom in round pans. And it also, on the top, on the lid, has banana, wallpaper with a blue background, which is super cute. So I was able to try this palette. I'm actually wearing it right now. I will post a picture of my final look. But I looked at this palette and I thought, okay, it's all neutral tones, basically. They're, browns. The closest, I think, to another color is one of them has more of an orange tone, and one of the metallics has more of a copper-esque. So it's within the brown orange spectrum, right? And then, of course, on the back, it has the shelf life, which is 12 months. It also has a cute little message from Kashmir, who is the Beauty Bakerie CEO and founder. I won't read it, but I'm sure you can find it online. As well as the ingredients, and also, let me see, and the formula is vegan. So like I said, there's 9 shades. So their shade names are rice pudding, butterscotch, nana pudding, chia pudding, spiced caramel, warm cocoa, bread pudding, mango pudding, and almond jelly. And these shades spread from, pretty light. I think the lightest shade here is rice pudding, which is basically my skin tone, if we're being honest. I did a swatch, which I will also post on our online platforms. It's basically a white, but it's got kind of a rosy tone to it as well. And I'll be honest with you guys, this is not a palette that I would normally pick up. I do love a brown smoky eye, but the one thing that I did see when using this for me personally was there wasn't like a true brown, cause even warm cocoa has kind of a red feeling to it, which I dig all the colors like as base tones. And if you're someone who wants a really wearable palette, I would recommend it, definitely. But I will say, I think this palette is a little limiting in terms of if you want to do something a little more creative, a little more fun. I think you're going to have to, I think you would use this as like a, base shades or if you're just getting started with makeup, this is a great starter palette. If you want to start kind of smaller and work your way up to the crazier colors, I totally get it. I will say that's exactly how I did it. But this is it's great for fall and, like Thanksgiving and Christmas time. I think you could do some really pretty looks with this. But for me personally, I wish there was like a slightly darker brown or a black in it, which I know probably does not, really go with the theme. But that's just like a personal thing of mine. As for the look that I did today, I started with rice pudding, which was a little lighter than I was expecting, and I put that all over the lid to use as like a transition shade, and it was a little lighter than I had wanted. So I went in with bread pudding after that, which is a little bit of a darker shade, and it has kind of a red tone to it. And then right from bread pudding, I dipped into warm cocoa with a nice fluffy brush, and just put that into my crease and started blending. And one of the things that I did notice about this palette is that it blends really nice. I think that some formulas have the tendency, because they want a lot of pigment, to create a product where you put it on the lid and like that's it. There's no going back. And you really didn't have to fight at all with this product. It blends really easily. And then, once warm cocoa was nice and blended in my crease, I went into, almond jelly and put that in the center of my lid, as just kind of like an accent color. And it wasn't as bright as I was hoping it was going to be. I actually did use the trick of spraying the brush when the product is on with a little bit of setting spray, which seemed to help a lot. I think that's kind of the trick with most of these kind of shimmer shades. Either use your finger to apply them, you'll get more pigment that way, or you can do the trick that I had said, just take a flat brush, load it up with some product, spray a little setting spray on there, and then you can kind of paint it on. It almost becomes like a wet product after that. So, and it'll help the eyeshadows last a little bit longer, too. So once almond jelly was on there, I wanted something a little bit lighter, in the inner corner section of my eye. I would say like the inner third. And so I dipped into butterscotch, which is kind of closer to a white shimmer, with some pale pink tones to it. And it was a really pretty color. I think it helped balance, the amount of darker colors that I used. And then once butterscotch was on there, I did the same trick with the setting spray, which helped a lot. And once that was on there, I went back into bread pudding with a smaller brush and just smudged it into my lower lash line to kind of connect the two. So this product normally retails at $38 on their website. It is vegan and paraben free, and it also claims to be smudge proof. Which I think is probably accurate. I wore the product for a couple hours and it didn't feel like it was moving. And especially someone who has, more oily skin, that tends to shift your product around, especially with shimmers and glitters. And I didn't feel like I had that issue. That could be because of the primer, and it could be because of the setting spray as well. So my overall thoughts on this palette, I think it's really great. I think the formula is great. It's really creamy. It does not feel chalky. Sometimes mattes have that kind of chalky feeling. This did not have that. Really easy to blend, easy to wear. I think for people who are looking for an easy palette of neutrals, this is great. I think you can do a decent amount of looks with them. But like I said, I kind of wish that there was a slightly darker brown and maybe a black, or maybe something that was just slightly different from the rest of the color scheme. But that's just my personal opinion. Of course, I would love to see what you guys think of this palette too. If you're more of on the alternative scene, what did you think of it? If you're not really into the alternative scene, you really like neutral palettes, I'm just curious to see, what kind of looks are you doing with it? I did something a little more extreme because it's my style. And definitely let me know if there are other products that you'd like me to review and talk about on here. Because like I said, I love makeup. I like collecting makeup and using makeup. I will take any opportunity possible to have makeup in my life. So please let me know any beauty products that you're interested in knowing about. So I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we're going to be talking about self-care and what to do when you take the makeup off. Stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the Beauty Podcast on the GSMC network. I'm your host, Becky. And in our first segment, we talked a little bit about, how to express yourself in an office environment that doesn't necessarily go with your outside personality or your way of style. We then did our second segment where I did a, quick tiny review of the Beauty Bakerie Proof is in the Pudding eyeshadow palette. And to finish off everything, I thought we would start with our first ever self-care corner. So first of all, what is self-care, right? I mean, I think we hear self-care a lot, but I don't think a lot of people really quite understand what it means. I think a lot of people think of self-care as, oh, you take a bath, or, oh, you go to the spa or something. Self-care can be anything. Self-care can be you treat yourself to coffee, or you give yourself 10 minutes in the middle of the day to walk in the park. Self-care is just something that you can do to check in on you. And self-care is so important in a healthy beauty lifestyle, I would say. For me, makeup is part of self-care. Especially when I know I have a good 2 hours before I have to be somewhere. I can really take my time. I can play with different colors. If something doesn't work, I'm in no rush. And especially with this Beauty Bakerie palette, it was a really good time of figuring out the colors. Where am I going to place this? Where am I going to put this? I did my brows for the first time in a really long time. So it was bomb. So basically the third segment of our show is just talking about a couple ways that you can do self-care. So like I said, one of my favorite self-cares is makeup. But if you don't want to do makeup, if you're not going out, I totally get it. Sometimes you just want to stay in your PJs and watch Netflix, and that's okay too. Just make sure that especially if you're feeling stressed, just make sure that you take a couple minutes or an hour to really just focus on yourself. This can include friends, this can include partners, but make some time for you as well. For me, it's makeup, or actually one of my other things is taking baths, which I know I kind of said a little disparagingly earlier, but I love a good bath, man. Hot water. And if you're lucky enough to have a really deep tub, which I'm not in the position of at the moment, oh, bless you. I love a nice hot bath, especially when it's cold outside. And especially if you're in a job where you're standing a lot or you're doing a lot of labor, baths can be so great for your muscles because, the heat will relax them. And again, you can kind of take some time for yourself, light a couple candles. One of the things that I like to do is use sea salt in my baths. So as it's running, you can get sea salt from the store, just like from your local grocery store. It's just with the salts. But I like a nice coarse sea salt, and as the bath is running, you put the sea salt in there. My skin always feels so soft, especially because salt water is so healing. If you have acne and you do one of these baths, a couple times a week, I found that my acne gets better. I find that my skin is softer. I find that, if I'm having a bad breakout that week, it kind of helps with that because sea salt is good for that, basically. So yeah, if you have a favorite candle, or, just set up your iPad against the tub, watch a show or two, just relax, take some time that's just you, focusing on you. And if you need some good candle recommendations, I like makeup, I like candles too. I appreciate a well-scented candle, I will say that. One of my problems, I think, with your average drugstore candles is the fact I feel like I can't smell them after a while, and that bugs me. So if you're taking a nice relaxing bath, I like to not turn the lights on and maybe put 2 candles in there with me, so it's got kind of a soft glow. But it really lets me kind of focus on me. And 2 of my favorites, actually, candle-wise, are one of my favorite brands of candles is actually called Birkin Hair Company. They did this really cute Halloween line a couple years ago. I found them at a witches market, which was basically just a bunch of indie vendors who were, trying to sell their, it was a lot of jewelry, candles, things like that, and incense, of course. And Birkin Hair was there, who I had only seen on Instagram. I was lucky enough that they were there. And I bought 2 of their candles. One of my favorites is called Hocus Pocus. I don't think it's on their shop anymore, but they have a lot of really interesting smelling candles. Another one of my favorites is called Cemetery Gates. It has this kind of smell of fresh cut grass or hay, like you're going up to the cemetery gates, I guess. But it's got this really nice, fresh smell. And like I said, it doesn't really fade over time. Another candle company that I really like is called Moody Moon Magic. They do have a shop online. I actually found some of their candles in a shop called Broomstick Betty's, which is actually the same shop that I got the dress I talked about in segment 1. They have a really cute supply of kind of witchy-esque style and fashion. They also have these really great candles, incense, things like that. Really cute notebooks. And the candle that I had bought from them is called Cottage Witch. It says it has ginger, clove, vanilla, but they're coconut and soy blend. They are natural and eco-friendly. It also, which I think is really cute, is it actually tells you what stage the moon was in when the candle was poured, which I think is really sweet. They also have this really cute brown glass packaging, and all of their candles have fire safe glitter as well as flowers. This candle actually smells like you can definitely smell the vanilla in there, but it almost smells like maple syrup almost. So when you burn it in your home, it kind of smells like someone just made pancakes recently, which personally I love. And the ginger in there is very subtle. So those are two smaller indie stores that you can check out. They make amazing candles. So that when you're ready for your self-care sea salt bath, you're covered. I think it's important to remember that self-care does not have to be anything outrageous. It doesn't have to be, something that you hardcore plan. It just has to be a time where you can kind of take inventory of yourself. And especially when you're feeling stressed, figure out what the center of that stress is. And when you figure that out, you can kind of go from there, right? You can kind of say to yourself, okay, this is what's stressing me out. How do I combat this? How do I, change something to make me less stressed about this? And, just feel happier. I mean, I say that like it's so easy, just be happy, but, doing these little tiny steps can, kind of put you on your way to that. So don't feel guilty. Don't feel ashamed of taking some time for yourself. I mean, even if it's, tell your friends, hey, I would go out with you, but I think I need some time to myself to do a count of what's going on. If they're good friends, they're going to say, that's, good for you. We'll see you next time. And if they have a problem with it, you got bad friends, and sorry. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you again for checking out the GSMC Beauty Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Becky. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. If you drop a nice review, it really helps us out a lot. And don't be shy. Find us on social media. We are on Facebook and Twitter. And, let us know if you like what we're doing. Like I said, drop me some suggestions for products that you're interested in knowing more about. And, overall, let's just have a discussion about, what is beauty and what makes us happy. Because I think the world could use just a little bit more happiness and a little bit more beauty. So that's the show, and I will catch you next time. Bye!
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network, from health and wellness to entertainment and life and happiness to sex and relationships. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast.